Hello and welcome to our roundtable discussion, and welcome to day 2 of GatherVerse Africa Tech for Humanity Summit. And what an amazing fireside chat, right? I think it was so awesome to be able to speak with Christina there about the talent in Africa and the opportunities, and how we can move Africa forward. But on this roundtable discussion, we're going to be speaking about the African footprint in AI, building AI that reflects African realities. If I could ask every single person on the panel just to mute their microphone so we don't have any sort of feedback or any sort of issues or technical issues, because we do get that sometimes on the panel. So if I could just ask everybody to quickly mute their microphones, that'd be appreciated. And I'll make sure everyone gets their chance to obviously introduce themselves as well. So but before we get into that, we have lots of questions coming up. We have lots of also more videos to share with you, and lots of more coming up after this. So, but before we get into that though, let's do the introductions. So what we're going to do is we start with Majitsu, we go across to Mary, we'll go to Halamat, Dr. Venue, Dr. Sateesh, I think that's how you say your name? Yeah. And also Blessing James.
Yeah, Dr. Sateesh.
Sateesh. Okay, well, thank you for correcting me. So, Majitsu, over to you. Please introduce yourself. Keep the introduction short, and we'll get straight into the questions. So, over to you, Majitsu. We can't hear you at all, Majitsu. I don't know if your microphone isn't plugged in or...
You're talking on mute, probably. I think he's talking on mute.
Yeah, we'll head over to Mary and Sateesh. We'll go over to you just shortly. Mary, could you please introduce yourself?
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I am Mary Waweru, and I am the founder of AI Literacy Hub, a hub that champions AI literacy for Africa, and I am excited to be here.
And thank you for joining us. And that sounds very interesting, AI Literacy Hub. So I'd love, when we get into the questions, I'd love to hear more about your experience and what you've been working on over there, Mary. Halamat. Please correct me if I am wrong. How do you pronounce your name, please? Halamat. Okay, please introduce yourself, Halamat.
Okay, hi everyone. I am a business expansion strategist, and my role presently is to seek solution from chaos, and also bring out strategy to make sure that those solutions comes to life. And I am excited to be here with everyone here today.
Thank you for joining us, Halamat. And Dr. Venue, over to you. Please introduce yourselves. We'd love to hear what you have been up to, Dr. Venue. If you can unmute your microphone, that'd be appreciated. Just if your microphone is muted, just make sure you unmute your microphone and then you can speak. Dr. Venue, over to you.
Good day, everybody. And I am Dr. Venujia. I am into AI director. I am driving the literacy program for India. 50,000 students we are going to educate by December. Because any
That's
technology
incredible.
comes into world, we should bring the awareness first, how to utilize the technology, how it is going to helping tool for our life. Once it is promoted, then the people will be and the society will be benefited. That's the cause. I am into the IT industry 25 years, academic and product development and mentoring across the world. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Venue GR, and great introduction there. Dr. Sateesh.
Yeah, it's Sateesh. That's
Sateesh, please introduce yourself. And thank you for being with us, and thank you for being patient too.
Sure, thanks. Myself, I am Dr. Sateesh Kumar Rongali. And I think last year I completed my doctorate program in Judson University in Illinois. So currently, I am working as a business testing lead for a health client called Cigna Healthcare. It is based on United States and provide health insurance. Most of the people know about Cigna, I guess. So currently, I am working as a business testing lead for the healthcare projects. and I did my research on AI, machine learning, and how AI can be implemented on healthcare and different technologies like MuleSoft and those kind of things, integration technologies as well. That is my overall experience, and I'm looking forward to it because this is my first time I'm attending this event today. I'm very excited, and I'm seeing Dr. Brasha as well here. Hey, Brasha, how are you? She
Doc,
one of uh,
we'll head over to Dr. Bradshaw since she just joined us. So thank you for introducing Dr. Sateesh, and it's great for you to join us. And hopefully you'll enjoy your first time being with us at GatherVerse. So Dr. Bradshaw, please introduce yourself and welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Bradshaw. I am an academic program director of emerging technology, and I love the AI and the metaverse. So I just want to share knowledge with every country, and Africa is a great place to start.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Bradshaw. And that was nice and short and sweet. That's like the introductions are fantastic when it's like that. It's just straight to the point, not messing about. So thank you for joining us, Dr. Bradshaw. Precious, please introduce yourself and welcome to GatherVerse as well.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It's afternoon here in Nigeria. And my name is Precious. Can you hear me? All right, wonderful. So my name is Precious, and I'm head of operations at Web3 Switch. And what we do at Web3 Switch, we help the Web2 individual to transition into the blockchain space and have them get trained, get certified over time in Nigeria here and everywhere across Africa as well, because we kind of like do trainings remotely for everyone who is willing to onboard and get into the Web3 space. So that's what I do. And I am also an information technologist too. And yeah, that's what I do. Thank you so much, everyone. And I believe that this session is going to be an amazing one for every one of us.
Precious, thank you for joining us as well. And I'm glad to hear a fellow Web3 person like myself. It's great for you to join us. And Ademulagan, is that how you say your name?
Ademulagun Blessing James.
Ademulagun, like that?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. My name is Ademulagun Blessing James. I am the Vice President and Chief AI ethicist at the African Tech for Development Initiative. What we do is we accelerate and advance the development of technology in Africa with a focus on marginalized and underrepresented communities. And we are focused on 4 thematic areas. We are focused on AI in healthcare, AI in language translation. We are focused in capacity building and also collaborating with partners across Africa. Thank you.
Adam Mulligan, thank you for joining us. And last but not least, I'll introduce myself and then we'll get straight into the questions. So my name is Russell. I am the Director of Partnerships at GatherVerse. I'm also the co-founder of Just Verify. And Just Verify is focused, well, our mission in very simple terms is to verify the integrity of AI models to ensure their responsible adoption across the world. And we're literally focused on basically verification and making sure that AI is trustworthy. So that's what we do in a nutshell at Just Verify. So thank you for everyone joining us. And Ad Mulligan, if you could just please mute your microphone as well. There's just a little bit of feedback coming. So what we're going to do is go straight into the first question, which is, what is the current and future state of building AI that reflects African realities? So, Dr. Sateesh?
Yeah, correct.
I'm going to bring you onto this one first because since you're new here and your first time here, I want to give you the first question. And then we'll also head over to Mary after for this question. So what is the current and future state of building AI that reflects African realities? Over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much. The current state, right? I'm thinking they're getting adapted to AI slowly, and a lot of research or the startups are different projects, right? They're coming up across the African continent, and little bit I am doing one challenge. I am seeing like they do have some capacity issues, and they don't have enough funds as well to get into projects because funding is very critical for AI because we need to get different resources from different countries to walk through what's happening or those kind of things. And there was some recommendation I can say, specifically the future thing will be like if more funds will come, right, and they can invest on local people as well, where they can distribute uh, the initiatives across multiple talents across Africa, and probably they can do some kind of strategies as well to get into the local AI systems, so that the problems whatever they have, right, it can be resolved. So the future, I think I can say, like they will expand into more industries, I can say, specifically in agriculture and public services, I am thinking.
Also, I will add to this. I'll also add that I think data centers are going to be a big issue too. Unless you have the data centers or the cloud servers, or be able to have the compute to be able to do AI, I definitely think that's going to be an issue not only in the African region, but also when it comes to even like the UK region, EU region, quite a few regions, to be honest. So, Mary, let's bring you on this question. What are your thoughts when it comes to the current, future, and future state of building AI that reflects African realities? Like, what is your view on this?
Thank you so much for that question. Let me start with the current state of AI in Africa. So AI is already solving a few problems in Africa. For example, in the agriculture sector in Kenya, AI is already helping with agricultural predictions in terms of seasons and which plants will do best in which types of soils. And then in the fintech area, especially in Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa, AI is helping a lot in terms of credit scoring and also algorithms in the fintech area, and also in health diagnostics in Rwanda. They're using AI a lot. Well, the future state, how we see AI, first of all, I'd love to the issue that you have brought up, the data centers. Yes, data centers is one. We need to improve on the data centers so that we can improve on the data that is being used to train these AI models. Number two, we need to build AI that is grounded on African languages. And I had someone here saying that they are working on that, language translations, and also the cultural context in Africa. We need to build AI that shows and reflects the different cultural contexts in Africa. I think there's a huge opportunity in that. And also literacy rates, AI literacy and fluency rates in Africa. Those are other things that need to be tapped on.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's a staggering list that you have there. You know, I just think one of the biggest things that I do think about is culture. And, you know, just because culture is different in every single country, you know, when it comes to the African culture, because you have so many different cultures within Africa, it's kind of hard to pinpoint of, for example, what is it like in Nigeria versus South Africa, right? Are they two different, you know, cultures that are in those two different places? You know, what is that like? What is the difference? And, you know, that's something that I do think about is culture being one of those big narratives on top of everything else that you've been saying. So thank you for sharing, Mary. And we're going to head over to our next question, because I can see Dr. Bradshaw also nodding her head. It's good to see you're like, yes, I agree. So the next question is, how can AI be trained ethically on African data without exploiting African workforce? So Dr. Bradshaw will bring into this, and then we'll go over to Dr. Venu GR after. So please share your thoughts, Dr. Bradshaw.
Sure. AI, especially with ethics, we have to make sure that we're using the algorithms that are created for African languages, because I think that's the big problem with a lot of the large language models. They're really not expanding them to African languages and cultures. So we also have to intertwine with that, with the ethics. what is the AI going to be used for? Is it going to be used for helping the communities in Africa? Or, you know, you don't want to just use AI to do like, oh, we just want to surveil everybody, but you want to make sure that AI is going to be used ethically, and especially with companies, schools, kids, even healthcare. Healthcare uses AI quite a bit, and they also use metaverse as well. So they have to make sure that it's ethically sound and that they're not using it to exploit patients or so forth. So I think the same could apply to the AI with the ethics and whatever it's going to be used in African communities as well.
Yeah, and also if you think about it, Dr. Venue GR, we'll come over to you just a second, but Precious, this also makes me think about when it comes to the Web3 side of things, right? When we're talking about financial, crypto, etc. When we're talking about training ethically on African data without exploiting African workforces and using the correct data to train the AI, so to speak. When it comes to the Web3 side of things, and I know there's a big decentralization when it comes to the crypto side of things, how can we make sure that these AI are ethical when it comes to the crypto side, and how can we make sure that, for example, when it comes to the financial sector, that it doesn't get exploited, so to speak, with AI? What are your thoughts on that, Precious?
All right, so I think that it depends on what kind of data we are collecting, and we are feeding these models over time. You understand my point? So because it's what you give this model that it will return back to you. And if we at the end of the day gives this model essence data that feeds them more like, okay, this that feeds them our within the crypto space, within the Web3 space, we have like bots that do trading, for example, and these are programmable bots and AI bots, right? Now, if at the end of the day we are giving this bot information that we're not supposed to give them, we're already exposing ourselves to things that we're not supposed to expose ourselves to. So we need to actually just limit what we are. Yes, we need the bots to do this trading for us, to give us this financial analysis data for us able to make decisions wisely over time, right? But then we need to limit some certain kind of data that we're feeding this model over time. And in the Web3 space, since it's centralized, everybody wants to everybody wants to make money, everybody wants to be have this financial literacy over time. All right. But me, I believe that as much as we don't want these things to exploit us, we need to also make sure that we're not feeding it excess data that would also get back at us over time.
Okay. And I it's very interesting, like when it comes to crypto, Web3, etc. And we won't dive down that rabbit hole too much, but it's very interesting how the convergence of AI and Web3 is coming together. And what is that future going to look like, not only just across the world, but when it comes to the African continent, right? And how do we make sure that it is ethical and that it does supposed to do what it's supposed to do when it comes to the Web3 standpoint and crypto, etc. So thank you for sharing your thoughts, Precious. And I want to get on to our next question, because we do have quite a few questions, and we're also flying through the time because I've literally just looked at the time now. So Dr. Venue GR, we're going to come over to you, and also we'll come over to you next, Halamat, which is how do we serve the need for massive data to build AI with the right to privacy and safety for Africans? Dr. Venue GR, please tell us your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. Because data building, it differs from industry to industry. For example, if you take verticals industry, if you take banking, it is a different database building. If you take healthcare, it will differ the database building. If you take logistics, it differs. If you take agriculture sector, it differs. If you take food and beverage, it differs, because the data is the differentiation from the industry to industry. So the data is collected as a massive from the different verticals. And then, it comes as a privacy means when we are using the data, like how we are using internet, we have the first level, second level, third level, the security levels. The AI is also going to be cyber security with AI, the network system that's going to control. That is the most stringent, because right now what we have, the security is not that stringent. Now with the AI, it is 100%, because now we are using, access with the retina eye, access with the finger thumb, with the hands images, so that more security with the personal touch of the fingers rather than, entering the keywords. That is the way the security and privacy comes.
By the way, I see you, Immediate Tiger, in the comments. I see you like commenting a lot. Immediate Tiger, if you want to come on here and speak on the panel, please let us know. But no, Dr. Venu GR, you bring up a lot of great points there, and it does depend on sector. And I see what I don't know if you've seen, but I've been seeing what Switzerland have been doing when it comes to their way in how they do privacy and safety. And if you see what they're doing, I think the AI is called Lomos, I'm pretty sure. And the way in which they do their privacy and safety is that every chat that you have with that AI, they don't keep any of your chats, any of your logs, nothing. Not like how ChatGPT and these other companies do, because the other companies train the logs and all the chats that you have and then train it on their data, right? Whereas they don't do that. They say, we're not keeping anything, it's completely yours, everything's encrypted, etc. Like how you're saying when it comes to cybersecurity, and that all the privacy and all the safety is completely yours. So I find that very interesting how Switzerland is doing that in particular. But then also you've got the American side, which is doing the other side of things. So it's very interesting, this balance. And when we talk about ethics and safety and privacy, it's a very interesting way in how they do that. But thank you very much, Dr. Venu GR, for sharing your thoughts. And Halamat, let's bring you onto this conversation. What are your thoughts on everything that's been shared?
Okay, I really think that when it comes to privacy and safety, we have a whole lot to do in the context of Africa, because when it comes to trial, Africa is usually seen as a dumping ground where people can just come and do things and go. So of recent, we have an issue within the Nigerian government and Meta, where it was discovered that Meta has been having access to people's WhatsApp data without consent, and the Nigerian government has to sue them. And this shows that so many of us are still do not have a lot of knowledge when it comes to data privacy. And also, it's up to our policymakers to make sure that users of our data are held accountable for what they use our data for, and when they go out of what they are supposed to do, they should be held accountable. When they are held accountable, it will serve a very good message to those who think that African is a place where you can just do anything with our data. So that's what I think. I think that our policymakers has a whole lot to do when it comes to this regard, because so many of us still do not have enough information about data privacy and safety.
Yeah, it also makes me think about governance and policies, and when it comes to all that as well, Halamat, and I can only reiterate what you're saying. And when it comes to AI governance too, in particular, it's very important that is put in place when it comes to holding companies accountable, and also making sure they're transparent too, right? Like if they're saying, hey, we're going to train your data and our thing, at least you know what you're signing up for, right? We won't name any names, but there's a big tech company in America that maybe in the past maybe not been so transparent and maybe kind of used your stuff, so to speak. But anyway, the point what I'm getting at is I completely agree with you, Halamat, and I think accountability and transparency and making sure that the right AI governance is in place, and making sure that Africa is safe and that it can't just be used as a place where you can just come to freely. So thank you very much for expressing your thoughts, and I really appreciate that. And I want to get onto our next question and bring in James, if you don't mind me calling you that, because I can't say your first name. I do apologize. The question is, what are the most pressing policy gaps that need to be addressed for Africa to have a real agency in AI governance? Over to you.
Thank you very much, and feel free to call me James.
Thank you.
So right now, the state of AI governance policy frameworks is that we are still at the nascent stage of AI governance policy in Africa. As of mid-2025, only about 7 African countries have either developed or adopted an AI policy framework. So we have a lot of work to do. And with respect to the gaps, we have to look at what some other people who have gone ahead in AI are doing, and that is having a national register for incidents, AI incidents, and abuses in the ecosystem. Right now, even for the 7 African countries or thereabout who have either adopted or enacted an AI policy framework, there is a lack of a national register for AI incidents that can inform policy decisions, inform guidance and direction with respect to AI. So we need to have a national register for incidents with respect to abuses, cyber attacks that are related to AI, data privacy violations related to AI, so that this register can serve as an information hub to influence decision and policy and inspire the rapid development and ethical development of AI in the African ecosystem. And I also believe we have to do a lot in the area of implementation. There is a plethora of similar policies across Africa, even in developed countries, but there is a great deal of implementation gaps. And the reason is that the law enforcement agents and the relevant agencies in the AI ecosystem, some of them, a great deal of them, are not involved. So I'm going to reiterate what Alima said earlier. There has to be a lot of AI literacy training and awareness programs for all the relevant stakeholders in the AI ecosystem, from the AI developers, from the innovators, to the government representatives, to the academia, to the research institute, and all of the relevant stakeholders in the AI ecosystem, so that on one side, if there is a very robust governance framework, on the other side, we do not have implementation gaps. We also have people who are relevant, who understand what they have to do, what they don't, what they are not allowed to do, and we have an authority who can hold them accountable where there are abuses, where there is lapses in implementation, and where something clearly has not been done. So for the policy gaps, we have policy gaps in terms of incident responses, and we also have policy gaps in terms of implementation and awareness with respect to the relevant stakeholders in the AI ecosystem.
It sounds like there are quite a few gaps going on from what you're saying, James. And I mean, even here in the UK, I look at the stats of adoption, and I think like the national average is like 67%, right, when it comes to AI adoption in particular. And here in the UK, we're only at like 47%, right? So even we're behind and we're like the UK, right? So I like, when it comes to governance and when it comes to policies and the implementation of that, that is so crucial when you're doing AI adoption. And I think people do forget when they're adopting AI, they forget the governance side, they forget the policies, and they're like, well, I can just use this. Yeah, okay, maybe in your personal life, but when it comes to business, or when it comes to society, or when it comes to governance level, that's a whole, a government level, sorry, that's a whole different thing. So I completely agree what you're saying, James, and the fact that, just the lack of it within Africa, would like to see more of that across, the continent. So thank you for sharing, James. Go ahead.
Let me quickly keep this in before I go. For example, the National Data Protection Regulation Authority is the body in charge of AI policy in Nigeria, and they have announced that every AI organization and tech organization must have a dedicated data protection officer, for each organization. And we still have many organizations in Nigeria that do not have a dedicated data protection officer. So that is one aspect of the policy gap we are talking about.
Okay. No, it's great to hear that that's been implemented, and thank you for sharing, James. And Dr. Sateesh, what are your thoughts on this too? Do you agree with everything that's been saying? Do you not agree? Like, give us your sort of wider perspective, maybe from like a different lens and a different point of view.
Yeah, sure. Like most of the things I agree. I do believe the most policy gaps right there in data sovereignty and governance. There is a gap in Africa. Like they, whatever the policies they owns, they or whoever owns whoever controls some the African data, right? The problem with that is the foreign companies cannot extract the whatever the African data without retaining the values. And for this, right, we need to have some official laws, I can say, where we can ensure whatever the African data is there, right? It will be used as a ethical thing, like so. If we use the data as a ethical purpose, right, it will be beneficial for the local communities as well. And the other policy gap I am thinking is like the representation in global AI policy as well, where most of the African voices, right, they are underrepresented in different bodies, and for that, right, we the African, right, so in the union level, they need to design some kind of framework, so that way, like the African people, right, can be stronger in different global forms as well. And the other thing I am seeing one gap is in ethical AI and human rights protection as well. I do see some of the frameworks which they are using, right? They are very discriminative and they are misusing the AI as well. So the problem with that is like it will harm the different algorithms and the digital colonialism as well. And last thing I can say, they doesn't have enough funding as well in education, research, and workforce development as well. And if infrastructure and if the local talents, education, and skill set, and if any funding that comes to the research support, then we can see more opportunities and more AI implementation overall in Africa, I can say.
Let's go on to the next question, and you bring up a lot of important points there, Dr. Sateesh, and it makes me think as well. When it comes to a lack of AI education and governance, and just a lack of everything across the board, infrastructure, etc. What role does open source play in democratizing AI development across the continent? Like, and I'll bring Dr. Bradshaw and Mary into this conversation. All the points that we've spoken about so far across the board, could open source play that AI development role across the continent and making it more accessible and potentially even the playing field, so to speak?
Yes, they can, because I am an AI advisor for Kawai. Kawai does that very thing. They're open source and they democratize AI, and they want to share it with anyone that wants to use it. So they share it with academia. I think they did it with Stanford and several other institutions that want to really create AI, but to make it open source for every continent and everyone that wants to use it. So they have a huge role in doing venues, conferences, and everything. They're really big in California, and they're trying to spread out to democratize AI and make it more of an open source to get experts on their volunteer list and their panel to help create and share information amongst every continent.
And also, what role do you think open source is playing, Dr. Bradshaw? Like, as in, do you think it's evening the playing field when it comes to closed source models? Do you think that open source models are more advanced, or are they behind even when it comes to that sort of thing?
I think they are innovative. They're very innovative, and they have a lot of information, but they try to make sure it's done properly. So they like to really go back and forth to make sure, hey, we need to add this to our AI model. We need to use this large language model, this algorithm. So they're trying to think of more innovative ways to get it out there. So I think they are really opening up the doors with innovation when it comes to sharing and democratizing AI. But they're really, I think they're going to be really reckoning for us in the future, especially with what they're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, I think open source in general and a lot of the models that are currently out there right now are more than capable, if not on par with the top models that are closed source now. You know, we've seen ChatGPT. They obviously released their open source. You've got lots of different models out there when it comes to open source. I think there's over like 2 million models in the world that are open source. But the point, what I'm getting at is open source could be that even playing field, so to speak. And it kind of makes me also, I keep going back to Web3 again, but it also makes me think of Web3 when it comes to decentralization, because that also evens the playing field when it comes to, you know, crypto, blockchain, NFTs, metaverse, etc. All the areas within Web3. So thank you very much for sharing, Dr. Bradshaw. And Mary, over to you. What are your thoughts on this, on open source? You know, is it playing a key role when it comes to democratizing AI development across the continent?
Yes, I believe so. And I agree with what Doctor has just shared. Open source is lowering the barriers, especially for startups in Africa. It's making it easier for them to do their research, for them to build up, because they don't need to go back to start from the beginning and start by creating the data centers like what OpenAI did. But now they can build up from what OpenAI or Anthropic has already done, and now they can build solutions for Africa. Again, I also believe that open source is helping with local customizations when you are talking about cultural differences and also language differences. With open source, it's easier to take a model that has already been trained and customize it for different cultural contexts or for different language contexts. So it's easier for smaller startups or smaller researchers and the academia to come in and build up on AI. And also it's removing the monopoly from the big foreign tech companies. So I believe open source is helping a lot.
I think also that it kind of gives Africa their own sovereignty, right? Yeah. As in, it allows you to, you know, train the models how you want to. If you want it to have an African culture to it, you can add that in. So I think open source really kind of allows that and evens the playing field when it comes to that. So I completely agree with you, Mary. And Precious, let's bring you into this conversation, as well as we'll head over to Dr. Venu GR after, which is, how do we confront the systemic bias in global AI systems that exclude African realities, and how can that be addressed? So, Precious, maybe you can give a unique perspective on this. Maybe you can give the Web3 angle on this. I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts on that.
All right, so I believe that right now there's a whole lot of bias in AI, and it's very real. All right, and you know, for me personally, when you look at it from the aspect of maybe facial recognition that phase on data skins to translations, model, and all that, yeah. Now, for me personally, I think the solution is representation, and even if as much as we want to, you know, understand that, okay, depends on how we are representing this AI, especially in this African region. I think we in Africa, we need to understand that we need data in terms of training sets, and understand that this, even if as much as we're trying to, sorry, I'm kind of a little bit tense, so
it's okay.
Even if we need African data in training sets, that's one of the things, right? So that we understand this model, understand our realities, because our reality in Africa is different from the reality in Europe. The way things are done in Europe is different from the things are done in Africa. Yeah? And most of the times, we all need African engineers and researchers, all right, to make sure that when we are making decisions within the AI policies, within the AI, trying to understand how well we can, how well we can really push AI to the world from Africa as a whole. All right, we still need to make sure that regardless of how we are doing this, we need to make sure that the solution is how we present these solutions and AI to the world over time. And we also need local labs for testing and refining system before we deploy them here over time. I believe that I've been able to do justice to this question. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Precious. And I do think, one of the ways in which we, can potentially reduce bias, right, is obviously when it comes to the data standpoint, etc. But also, I think when it comes to bias too, is maybe we need ways to be able to detect that, right? And seeing like how the AI performs and behaves, can we be able to look at that from the output and see, okay, this is the sort of bias that it does have. It can be from the training side of things, but it can also potentially be retrained or adjusted, or like you talk about drifting and saying how an AI model drifts off over time, right? Well, you can also realign it back as well to make sure that it does stay on track. So I think there's different ways which we could, be able to adjust and mitigate bias. But let's bring in Dr. Venu GR. Dr. Venu GR, you are an expert when it comes to AI, and the fact that you're also training 50,000 students, I think that's very commendable. So tell me, Dr. Venu GR, from your perspective and your eyes, how do we, confront the systemic bias when it comes to, Africa realities, and how can we address all the bias in a nutshell, really?
Thank you. See, when we are saying the title, Global AI, means AI is not related to any country or location. Technology is universal for every country. But only thing is that the global AI system, we have to train from the schooling level. The education should be done, AI skills development from the schooling to college, then professionals. Then what happens academic level, when we develop the skill, that manpower can compete and work across the globe, so that we are using AI in USA, we are using AI in Europe, we are using AI in Asia Pacific region. The technology is universally same, but only thing is that how we have been educating our society and developing the skills, that depends on the country's progress. And also more Africa is needed because I was a mentor for last 3 years for Africa from Bridge for Billions. In that platform, I have been noticed to closely work with the African entrepreneurs. They have the tremendous intelligence compared to across the world, but the only thing is that they need a good leadership. Technology leadership is required, and a lot of awareness is required. Second thing is that all countries are getting outsourcing projects, but especially South Africa government has to take initiative and welcome other countries to outsource the projects. So there, the technology will build, and Africans also come into the limelight of global market. That is a missing. The countries has to focus African, so that the cost of execution will be very comparatively very less in the African region. Only thing is that if you want to pass on the technology to Africa, one is the infrastructure, networking, and power supply. These are the three is most important, the basic infrastructure.
It sounds like it's a multifaceted approach, right?
Yes.
It sounds like we have to come at this from multiple angles to be able to solve the bias issue. So, for example, we did a healthcare summit, and when we did our healthcare summit, during that, one of the discussions that came up was that there's a lack of women's healthcare, for example, when it comes to the AI side of things. You ask it specifically for women's healthcare issues, and it kind of like hallucinates or, you know, makes things up or says something that it shouldn't, basically, and then it gives the wrong advice for women, right, when it comes to that side of things. I know this is just an example, but that's one just little small minute example that I can give that, you know, has a wider issue when it comes to society and when it comes to the bias issue that we're speaking about.
True. I agree.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Venugr, and thank you also for sharing your thoughts. So we're going to the next question because we literally have 5 minutes. So I want to speed through these last questions and round things up at the top of the hour. So the next question, and I don't know if we're going to have time for it all, but I'll get as many people to share their thoughts as possible on the panel, which is how can African entrepreneurs build scalable AI solutions that compete globally and serve local needs? I also just want, before we get into this question, also Mary share her thoughts. She said, we must ensure AI reflects African languages, cultures, and values, and not just important ones. So thank you for sharing your thoughts there. And I know, Immediate Tiger, you've been sharing a load of stuff in the comments. I can see you commenting so much. But anyway, so how can African entrepreneurs build scalable AI solutions that compete globally and serve local needs? So we'll head over to James on this one, and then also I think we'll head over to Halamat as well for this question, and try to keep your answers short, please, because again, we've run out of time. So please go ahead, James.
So thank you very much. Based on present realities in Africa with respect to our infrastructure, the best pathway is to leverage small language models because of their advantage of requiring little amount of data. They are domain specific. They don't require huge amount of computational energy and electricity to build, and they are still effective and able to solve problems. So and also small language models are built on open source models, meaning they don't have to build it from foundation to execution. So they can just leverage existing open source models and build their systems on that. And we already have very good examples. For example, the Mom Africa AI assistant in Nigeria is able to translate in local languages, Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba, and then translate it to English. You can also communicate in English and you get it back in your local language. So because of our present resource constraints in Africa, I believe small language models are the best pathway to build scalable AI solutions that serves local need and still compete globally.
Small language models are fantastic, and I couldn't agree more, James. Next question. How can partnerships within Africa and across the globe help accelerate African AI research? Halamat will bring you into this one. I am going quick, so sorry, James. I know if there was more that you had to express there. It's just like we got to go around the table as quick as we can. So Halamat, please share your thoughts on this question.
Okay, so on this question, I think that partnership with both governmental and non-governmental organizations will help a lot to take away most of the hustles that hinders innovators, because Africa is a continent that has a very complex ecosystem. Partnership with organizations can take away factors such as funding, resources, infrastructure. So when we have the right partnership, they will be able to remove most of those hindrances, which is hindering most intelligent developers to develop unique things. So partnership can help them in these aspects. To keep my answer short.
Thank you very much, Halamat. And I think literally that's all we have time for, I'm afraid. It's been an absolute pleasure having each and every one of you on this fantastic panel. Dr. Sateesh, I hope you enjoyed your first time here as well. And I'm afraid this is the end of the roundtable discussion. So please, everyone, make sure you follow each and every one of these fantastic people on the panel on LinkedIn. Search up their names, take screenshots if you need to try and remember the names, whatever you need to do, go and look them up, give them a follow, and definitely go and check them out. And there's so many fantastic, great AI experts here, including the Web3 switch on the Web3 side, of course. And like I said, it's been a pleasure having each and every one of you. So thank you very much for joining us in the roundtable discussion. And up next, we'll be getting into some more. We've got loads of great videos to share and a lot more discussions to come. So that is it from us. And that's it. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you, guys.
Founder of the Divina World Foundation. Thank you once again to the entire team at GatherVerse for this wonderful opportunity to share with you our Metaverse archival project. We're responding to an urgent global crisis, one that's unfolding almost unnoticed with irreversible consequences. The global loss of ancestral knowledge, the forced displacement of entire communities, and the disconnect between generations. Last year at FestPac in Hawaii, island nation delegates, government leaders, and tribal elders gathered to address three painful truths. First, their homelands are disappearing due to rising sea levels. Second, many don't know where their people will go, where they'll end up. And third, most urgent of all, they fear the total loss of their cultures, languages, and traditions. And this became our call to action. At Divina World Foundation, we asked, what happens when a culture disappears? UNESCO reports that one indigenous language disappears every 2 weeks. More than 40% of the world's 6,700 languages are endangered. With every language lost, we lose a worldview, a science, a story, a song. Yet amid this loss, we also see opportunity because Gen Z, 78% of them, are already living in virtual spaces. They learn, play, and connect through live streams, games, AR, VR, and AI-driven content. In order to preserve ancestral wisdoms, we must meet our young people there, where they are. That's why we're creating the Indigenous World Music Hall of Fame, the first multicultural and intergenerational heritage storytelling museum, archival library, and interactive experience built in the metaverse. In collaboration with our educational ally, Conectado.com, our immersive Hall of Fame becomes a bridge where wise women and other culture bearers will share music, oral histories, traditions, personal stories, and endangered languages in their own voices for future generations to learn from, preserve, and celebrate. We're not just preserving culture, we're future-proofing it. Our ethos is simple. By honoring our ancestors, we honor ourselves. And by celebrating our roots, we rediscover who we truly are. At Divina World Foundation, we believe that empathy, understanding, and compassion are cultivated through cultural storytelling, and that connection and community is the antidote to hate. So we're not just documenting identity, we're defending it. We're blending ancestral wisdom with modern tools to ensure no child grows up disconnected from their roots. We're using immersive tech as a safe haven for endangered identities. We're proving that ethical, community-led innovation can and will restore what's being pushed to the margins. This is our response to a disappearing world, and we're not alone. Our team includes artists, technologists, educators, donors, sponsors, and advocates. And together we're building a global movement powered by storytelling, equity, and the ethical use of AI to unite, not divide humanity. Because in a time of rising fear and fragmentation, we choose celebration over censorship. Culture is not just history, it's armor, it's identity, and it's resistance. And now I invite you to take a first look at how we're doing just that. Roll the video, please. Thank you, and please enjoy.
Technology is solving real problems, feeding communities, moving money, powering villages, and connecting people. From agritech to fintech, blockchain to mobile innovation, Africa is shaping solutions that fuel local progress and global collaboration. At GatherVerse Africa, Tech for Humanity, we celebrate this leadership and introduce a new way to make trust visible online, the meta layer.
I'm David Benjamin, working with the meta layer infrastructure SIG to help build out the civic layer of the internet. Together, let's explore what that means for Africa and the world.
Online trust signals, likes, badges, verification icons are easily gamed and fragmented. Generative AI blurs identity and intent. In fast-moving spaces like mobile payments, agriculture, and climate tech, we need a civic interface that travels with us across the web, making context and consent visible wherever we engage. The meta layer is a community-governed overlay that sits above any web page, not a new platform. An open, transparent layer where we bring applications, communities, and tags that operate across the entire web. Imagine going to a page, choosing to go visible and seeing everyone in your community who is there right now, and everyone in your community who was there recently enough to leave a trace. Imagine discussions about the content of the page flowing along the side, or polls and list items attached to sections of text, parts of photos, or segments of videos. Everything shifts dynamically depending on which communities you choose to become active in. It's attention triggered, so you're never overwhelmed by random notifications. The meta layer helps communities coordinate safely with rules and consent enforced where people actually interact above the page. Africa leads the world in mobile payments and fintech adoption. Agritech is improving yields and food security. Blockchain applications, renewable energy, and youth innovation hubs are scaling across the continent. The meta layer strengthens all of this by making trust portable so reputation, policy, and presence can follow people and projects across sites and platforms. This isn't theory. Through the meta layer infrastructure SIG, we're co-creating interface-level governance, tooling, overlays, and trust primitives that communities can adopt and adapt. The SIG is already led in part by 3 young African board members, underscoring Africa's central role in shaping this civic layer.
As the facilitator of the meta layer infrastructure SIG, I invite African technologists, founders, policymakers, researchers, and organizers to help shape the next layer of the internet together.
Thank you so much. I hope that you will all consider joining the meta layer infrastructure SIG. We need your input and participation.
Fellow innovators and change makers, hello and greetings from Nairobi. It is such a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Esther Mwangi and I serve as the Director of Research and Innovation at Zitech University. My work sits at the intersection of research, innovation, and community impact. and I am deeply passionate about how technology can be harnessed for a greater good. Universities hold a unique position as innovation hubs because they bring together three critical strengths: talent, research capacity, and multidisciplinary collaboration. They are home to young, curious minds brimming with fresh ideas, supported by faculty and researchers who provide the rigor and guidance to turn those ideas into real solutions. At GTech University, we integrate these SDGs into our research, teaching, and community engagements. This means training students to think beyond academics, to design technologies that improve access to healthcare, promote quality education, enhance food security, and drive climate-smart solutions. By embedding sustainability and impact in our curricula and innovation ecosystem, we ensure that higher education is not just about producing graduates, but about producing problem solvers who are actively contributing to Agenda 2030 and 2064. At GTech University, we view sustainability as the intersection of innovation, responsibility, and long-term thinking. This means developing technologies and solutions that meet today's needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet theirs. Whether it is integrating renewable energy into campus operations, embedding green practices in our research projects, or empowering students to design climate-smart technologies for their communities, sustainability is woven into everything we do. Our goal is in cultivating graduates who not only excel in their fields, but also act as stewards of the planet and champions of equitable, inclusive development. At GTech University, our research agenda is anchored in community-driven innovation. This means that we do not start with a lab experiment, then look for a use case. We begin with the community most pressing challenges and design research around solving them. 2, innovation and incubation ecosystem. The IZ Hub at GTech University serves as our innovation incubator, providing students with a space to transform their ideas into viable solutions. Through hackathons, innovation challenges, and accelerator programs, we create opportunities for students to test concepts, build prototypes, and receive mentorship from industry experts. These platforms bridge the gap between theory and practice, allowing learners to apply classroom knowledge to real-world problems, develop entrepreneurial mindset, and prepare their innovations for scale and impact in the community. I believe that every learning institution should have such a vehicle to provide a platform for scaling innovation. We have challenges. Such challenges include limited funding, tech infrastructure gaps, IP protections, and commercialization hurdles. Every institution should work towards establishing a technology transfer office to be able to overcome some of these hurdles. I'm calling to my fellow educators to ensure that we embed real-world projects into curricula. We must also invest in and mentor students-led tech projects, and I'm inviting industry leaders to support us in this. And we must also create policies that make it easier for innovations to move from lab to market. I'm encouraging students to always see themselves as creators, not just consumers of technology. And as I close, let's remember, when we empower students with the right tools, mentorship, and vision, we do not just graduate job seekers. We graduate problem solvers, and those problem solvers become the heartbeat of the community transformation. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm wishing you a great conference.
about innovation, most people think of Silicon Valley or Shenzhen. But here's a fun fact. Across sub-Saharan Africa, more people have a mobile phone than a bank account. That single reality changed everything. Instead of waiting for banks to build branches, Africa went straight to mobile money. M-Pesa in Kaya became the model that the world studied. Suddenly, a phone wasn't just for calls. It became a bank, a classroom, and even a doctor's clinic. This is what I call the leapfrog effect. And Africa shows us when you don't have old systems slowing you down, you can leap ahead faster than anyone expects. I know this story because I lived something similar when I built People's Inc. 360. It was during the pandemic. Businesses were shutting down, founders had little budget, little time, but one big question. How do I keep my business alive when the world stops? We built automation systems that unified web, social, influencers, and media. So instead of working harder, businesses could work smarter. That moment showed me what Africa has been proving for years. Constraints breed creativity. Take agriculture. Farmers in Kenya and Ghana use SMS to check weather and crop prices. On the surface, it's just text messages. But behind that is automation, data collected, processed, and delivered in real time. Or take fintech. In Nigeria, platforms like Paystack and Flutterwave didn't wait for banks to modernize. They automated digital payments and created billion-dollar businesses that now fuel economies across the region. The technology is powerful, but the real magic is the systems that multiplies the impact. So my message today is automation is the bridge for survival to scale. In Africa, it plays out in three powerful ways. One, financial inclusion. When banks don't reach villages, AI and automation extend financial services through mobile money. Think about the millions who can now send, save, and invest with just a phone. Two, visibility across borders. African startups aren't just building their own towns, they're scaling to regional and global markets. Automation in marketing and media, the kind we built at People's Inc. 360, means founders can be discovered in Lagos, Nairobi, or even London. 3. Systems that run 24/7. Humans sleep, but automation doesn't. From chatbots that answer customer queries at midnight to supply chains that reroute automatically, these are tools that free up people to focus on creating, connecting, and leading. And here's the most important part. Automation isn't about replacing people. It's about making sure people do more of the work that matters. Building communities, solving problems, and leading change. If this resonates, I share these kind of stories and strategies in my Royal Confessions newsletter. It's where I connect the dots between AI, automation, wealth, and community, not just in Africa, but globally. You can join me at princessa.beehive.com. Because at the end of the day, whether you're a farmer in Kenya, a fintech founder in Lagos, or an entrepreneur anywhere else in the world, automation is about giving us back the most important human resource we all crave: time.
That's it. That's it. GatherVerse Africa Tech for Humanity Summit. We are so thankful to everyone who spent the precious time with us. Thank you for the social media engagement. Thank you for the shares. Thank you for even 1 minute of saying hi. Thank you to our very esteemed speakers who shared their expressions, their insights, and their stories. Thank you so much. Thank you to all who tuned in from Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, GatherVerse.live. Thank you so much. In Africa, where I come from, in Swahili, we say Asante. Our GatherVerse Africa Tech Summit was well. Watch out for Asia, Middle East, and the future coming events. Until then, be kind. Thank you. Bye.
Children not to do what I have done. Spend your lives in sin and misery in the house of the rising sun. Well, there is a house in New